What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Bucky Rhett back with you here for a little takeaway episode. Fellas, what's going on?
It's all good, man. It's just crazy.
You're so somber, Buck. Where's the excitement?
No. For one, I wasn't even anticipating it coming to me first, but I just think it's just such a crazy time. Like, I'm seeing these teams just completely fall out of contention, having games under control. And so I'm just still kind of blown away from what I saw over the course of the weekend.
Well, I mean, like, this is why we call it the wild card, right? Because it is going to be wild in week 17. We've got 5 wild card spots when you combine both conferences that'll be up for grabs. All 3 of the teams that are currently in the wild card of the AFC, all of the same records. There's a ton of different variations in terms of teams and seedings. And a team we thought was probably firmly in, and the Colts are now on the outside looking in. There's going to be some fun here in week 17 as a result of what we saw here on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a crazy weekend. As we're just getting ready to start here, we got some more interesting news here, and that is the Washington football team is cut Dwayne Haskins. They have moved on.
Taylor Heineke, who was the COVID emergency quarterback as of 2 weeks ago, has probably practiced a handful of times with this team, is out on the field 1st and 10.
So
Done.
And look, to me, and some people are like, well, he hasn't played well when he's been out there. Yeah, no, he hasn't played great when he's been out there. They don't release him if it's just based off his play on the field. You do not punt on a first-round pick this fast, a top 15 pick, if you think, okay, it's just an ability thing. No, this is because of the lack of maturity and the poor decision-making off the field, not putting in what you need to put in preparation to get ready to play. And I think, look, the whole strip club thing after the loss last week was it. And, he got another chance to play this week, did not play great. But, Buck, I don't know where you are on this, but to me, I push back strongly for those that say, well, if, he just wasn't playing well, and at the end of the day, they just knew he couldn't play. There's no chance. You don't pull the hook that fast on somebody that's picked that high.
No, I think this had everything to do with, like, the other stuff. It had to do with the lack of maturity, the lack of professionalism that he displayed, his inability to get prepared and understand, I guess, I think sometimes young guys come into the league and they don't really understand, like, the enormity of what they're stepping into when you're the quarterback and the franchise quarterback at that. And I just don't think he handled the responsibility the way that you would see it. And going into a different situation with a new coaching staff that has no ties to him, he did everything that he possibly could do to work himself out of the starting job and a job in the league. And so, look, man, I think this is a pivotal point for him to make a decision on whether he wants to be in the league and a player, or if he wants just the trappings of the lifestyle. But he blew a tremendous opportunity, and it's a lot harder when you're out the league to get back in it because it leaves a stench. All the things that he did, it leaves a stain on who he is, and it'd be tough for his next opportunity if he gets another opportunity.
It's funny when we had planned a different takeaway, DJ, obviously on this Panthers Washington game, and like one of the notes that I had wrote down was Haskins with just 13 career starts has seemingly sealed his fate in Washington. It had a question mark. It had a question mark at the end. It does not anymore. It is over. On the field, there wasn't enough to counterbalance what is conceivably going on behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. What's going on off the field, which we don't clearly know the whole extent of, but we're starting to get some bits and pieces there. I mean, like you even go all the way back to last year when he was starting, and he kind of had that weird interaction on the sideline, like with his offensive linemen, where he's kind of like trying to plead with them, like, what can I do? What can I do? And they're all just kind of like looking the other way.
Yeah,
like,
remember
kind of
he was like taking a selfie. Remember he was taking a selfie with the fans at one time too.
Mm-hmm.
And he like didn't have his helmet to go in and take the knee at the end for the win, right? Yeah. Look, there's a maturity thing I think that they've documented, and I guess you like to see that kind of thing not be a problem, especially for a guy wearing the C for the early part of this year before they stripped him of the captaincy. So I guess for that part, I get it. And Ron Rivera, has no tie to him. So, all right, you're out, let's see you later. I think it'd be a little bit different if Ron had Ron had drafted him.
Yeah. Like here's the thing. One, why did he ever get the seat? Because I never sensed that he was their guy. Like,
it's a great question.
Just because you're the starting quarterback, it's almost like, if he's the starting quarterback, you get that. It's not how that works.
All of the hoops that he had to jump through, they talked about a quarterback competition and all this other thing. Those things aren't representative of someone who is your captain if you're making him compete for your job. compete for his job like right out the gate. And I feel like, look, this was a situation where I'd never thought that he was their guy. I just think he just made it so easy for them to part ways, because I don't think it was ever going to be a happy marriage. They were trying to kind of make it work, but he wasn't their guy and they moved on. And so now it'll be interesting to see what they do going forward, because I mean, they're kind of in no man's land when it comes to the quarterback situation. Like, they're not going to be potentially in a spot to be able to get like one of those top guys. So what are they going to do with that?
We'll have to look at it, because I think that there'll be a pretty significant difference in their draft position if they end up making the playoffs, right, as the NFC East eventual champion. And if they don't, because of their record is obviously not so great.
Yeah, right now they're 19th because they'd be winning the division.
But I think you're talking about anywhere from 19th to maybe moving up to
11
like
or 12.
8.
Like that's a big deal.
Yeah, but will they be in range to get one of the guys? Like, that
depends on if you think there's 4, that are top 10 worthy, right? I mean, that's eventually the discussion that we'll have to have, right?
I think that's very likely. We're going to see 4 of those guys go. The last thing I'll say on this one, we can move on. We talk a lot about it, and Buck, when you've been in that room when you're interviewing these kids at the combine, you're trying to figure out, do you love playing football, or do you love what comes with being a football player?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, this is like example number 1. Do you want everything that comes along with being a starting quarterback in the NFL, or do you want to do everything you need to do to maintain the position as a starting quarterback in the NFL? And I think Dwayne Haskins is a great cautionary tale there.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say is it's tough sometimes to play in your hometown with all of the negative influences that your friends and confidants and stuff can have on you. I don't think it's always ideal. And so I think this was kind of like something that was destined to blow up from the start, and it blew up in year 2, earlier than anticipated, but year 2, it comes to an end.
And I'll get us to our next takeaway here and just kind of say this. I mean, on the field, again, there wasn't enough, right? And he sacked 49 times in 13 games. And Taylor Heineke comes on in the second half of this game and looks way more competent running the offense. QB number 4, like that's an indictment on what you're seeing on the field as well. And it's probably all intertwined at some point, but I'll get us to takeaway number 2. And that was a historic day in Kansas City.
Darrell Williams to the right of Mahomes. Here comes a sellout blitz. Mahomes over the middle. He's got Kelce at the 40-yard line. Coming to the near side, 45 to midfield. Angling, still on his feet and out of bounds. Travis Kelce with that reception gets up to the 44-yard line. The National Football League record holder, Travis Kelce, the all-time National Football League record holder for receiving yards in a single season by a tight end.
So there you go. And that wasn't the only reason that this was a historic day. Travis Kelce breaks George Kittle's single-season receiving yardage record for a tight end. He's leading the league in receiving. Like, he could be the first tight end to lead the league in receiving yards in a season. And, oh, by the way, earlier in the game, caught his 100th pass of the year, which now makes him the only tight end in NFL history to have multiple 100-catch seasons. And you even go back to it. That touchdown that he caught at the end of the first half was a stabilizer for Kansas City, because they were shut out to that point. They were able to go into the half tied with Atlanta, who was doing some things on defense that gave them some trouble. And, Kelce is always that stabilizing factor for the Chiefs offense. When things are breaking down around them a little bit, he's always there to figure things out. And so with that win that Kelce was a big part of, the Chiefs become the first number 1 seed in the new playoff format. They will have the only bye in the AFC, and we'll see them in the second round. So now it makes you wonder, what do they do here in week 17 in a game that means nothing, knowing that you're going to already have another bye week for your starters before the divisional round?
Well, I think they need to play, because I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs have played really well. And if you ask me, I think they're kind of right to be knocked off early in the postseason, because this hasn't been a team that has played really, really well. And when you look at the way the Falcons play the game, the Falcons control the game. Like, surprisingly, this was a close game. The Falcons aren't a great team, but they were able to dictate the terms. And it took the Chiefs kind of finding their way of late. And so when I look at this Chiefs team, I just wonder, are they going to be able to, like, hit it running in the postseason? Because normally you like to see teams playing their best ball going into the postseason, they're winning. But I don't think if you ask Andy Reid or anyone within that locker room if they're playing their best ball, if they would say, yes, we're playing our best ball and we're ready to go.
I just wrote down the word bored. They just look completely bored to me. And people can look at that and say that's scary when you get to that point where you're bored. And I hear you, Bucky, saying, they need to go out there and not have 2 weeks off. I don't know. I tend to look the other way and say, look, this team is bored. They have the best team in the NFL. If I'm Andy Reid, I want to make sure I'm bringing the best team to the playoffs. I don't want to lose anybody in a Week 17 meaningless game against the Chargers. So there's risk in that. You could come out a little rusty. The good news is if you're the Chiefs, you have a lot of examples of you coming out rusty in football games. And you go back to the playoffs last year. But when you got fresh legs and you got the best players on the field, they found a way to win those football games. So to me, the worst case scenario for the Chiefs is you don't bring your best guys with you to the dance. So you've got an opportunity to rest a little bit. I think you'll see them play a quarter maybe, and then I think you'll see them get them out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting how they do it. Like normally when Andy Reid has time off, he gives his guys a lot of time off. I do wonder because you have to make the debate rest versus rust, and how much are you willing to sacrifice? How much work can you get your guys in those 2 weeks before you tee it up again? So look, that's something you can do because they are a team that is explosive. And you are right. I've likened them to Golden State a few years ago when they knew that they could just win whenever they wanted to roll out the balls and shoot the threes. They're kind of like that. So we'll see.
All right, let's keep it going here to takeaway number 3. And that was the game I was at with the Chargers and the Broncos. And, Jerry Jeudy dropped the ball.
Lock now, climbs the pocket again. That was a hold, by the way. Looking downfield, there's Adderley. Helps break it up. Boy, I thought he was going to be able to intercept that ball intended for Jeudy. Did Jeudy just drop that ball?
I thought it was going to be an interception. Then I thought it might be a touchdown because Jerry Jeudy leapt up, and it looked like it went right through his hands.
Oh, that's a straight drop. Hit him in the hand.
Adderley was actually out of position.
There were 5 drop passes for Jerry Jeudy in this game, including one at the very end on a deep post that went right through his hands. He could have run right through it and would have scored, would have won the game. But he dropped a corner out for a touchdown earlier. I can't remember, Bucky. I don't remember ever seeing a receiver have that many drops in a ball game. 5 of them. And they're playing in a climate-controlled, perfect conditions there at SoFi. And then after one of them, he came off the field. He chucks his helmet on the bench. Then the one at the end, he ended up going out and sitting on the bench and was almost kind of pouting a little bit for a couple plays before trying to get back out onto the field. He was in a bad place, man. And even the ones he caught, there were double catches. There were ones where he's just trying to corral the football. You can see a lack of confidence. And that was concerning.
How much was that in your report on him coming out of Alabama
I read it yesterday, actually, during the ball game. There was issues with concentration drops. So I didn't think he had bad hands. I just thought he had some concentration drops. But it wasn't to this magnitude that we would see something like this. I mean, you look at the targets he's had. I think he's had close to like 100 targets, and he's got like 45, 50 catches.
It's not a good rate.
It's not a good rate at all. And some of those are drops. Some of those are bad throws. But, man, they have – when you look around the league, Buck, at the receivers, the young guys that are having success, I mean, I know he's got – the numbers look okay with 600-plus yards and everything. But, man, he is not stacked up to where we thought he was going to be.
No, and look, it's a bit of a snowball effect when you start dropping balls. He had a couple of drops early in the year. There was a game where he had a critical drop that kind of impacted him. And I do believe it begins to play tricks with you. And what you saw, DJ, when you have 5 drops or multiple drops in a game, it does become a fear factor thing when the ball comes your way. Should I catch it with my hands? Are my gloves okay? Are my gloves tactified enough? Do I need to wipe them? And so from a mental standpoint, this will be a huge challenge. I will say this, the silver lining, Jerry Rice years ago went through that his rookie year where he had a ton of drops. And I remember as a kid watching him drop a ball in a playoff game against the New York Giants, and they talked about how he has the drop season. He went on to be the greatest receiver of all time. And so this is something that Jerry Jeudy will have to work on. He'll have to not only work on it from a physical standpoint, but I would think that somewhere sports psychology would be tied into this to kind of help him find some coping mechanisms to deal with this going forward.
106 targets this year, 47 catches.
That's got to be the league worst as far as target to catch rate. We'll have to check on that. So the thing I'm thinking here is next season, obviously for Denver, a team that's not headed to the playoffs. James Palmer was reporting that the Broncos are going to bring Vic Fangio back for a 3rd season. where will they be on Drew Lock heading into year 3? Because, obviously the drops affected his line in this game, but I don't know that drops have been, the biggest issue for the Broncos offense all season long. They lead the league in giveaways. That's an issue with 32 of them. Where do you guys feel like the Broncos will be on Drew Lock going into year 3 in 2021? DJ?
I mean,
or Buck? Yeah.
I think it's a thing where they'll look at him and it's almost like an incomplete grade. I don't know how you can grade him fully. He's been up or down. He's a second-year player,
right?
And those things. And so, if you have an opportunity to upgrade position, yeah, sure, you can pull the trigger. But I don't know. Like it's really hard because we kind of want these guys to hit the ground running as young quarterbacks. And if all the pieces aren't in place, meaning a strong defense, a strong offensive line, and all that, it makes it difficult. And even when we talk about the upgrades at wide receivers, playing with a bunch of newbies, like you got a bunch of rookies out there trying to learn together. Like it's kind of hard for it all to come together for a young quarterback.
And I would just say people forget Cortland Sutton's one of the best receivers in the NFL, hadn't played this year. So you're going to get him back next year. Now, I think they have a lot of weapons when you add in Fant there, the tight end position, and the young receivers they have. In this game, Hamler got knocked out. Denzel Perriman knocked him out in like the first series of the game, so he didn't play. He played okay. He had a terrible decision, which that tends to creep up a red zone pick. But I think with watching him now, a couple times that I've seen him now, 3 times I've seen him live over the last 2 years, when they pick up the pace, when they get no huddle, when they get on the ball, it's like this is where he's comfortable. This is what he did in college, and he plays so much better in those 2-minute situations and in the hurry-up situations. They need to figure that out. To me, I don't understand with some of these teams. Like you see these guys play so much better in that environment, and yet you don't do it. Like I would be living in that type of environment, and they have the speed everywhere else where – man, you could put pressure on teams if you played with that type of pace.
Because, DJ, like it's really, really hard, especially if you're old school traditionalist. It's hard to get out of your own way and say, hey, let's up the ante. It may require some simplification. We got to do some different communication things to make this happen. But you're not just talking about the quarterback being comfortable in that environment. Let's look at the composition of their skill players. They all played in no huddle, hurry up, fast things that didn't require a lot of thinking or whatever. And so there is something to that. And I think you might get better performance out of that. The thing about it is you have to be able to do it while also protecting your defense, because you have those series, you can expose your defense. But there certainly is a way to introduce and inject some tempo into their offensive approach.
I think so too. What do you got here? What's the next takeaway here?
The Ravens are peaking at the right time.
Ricard in motion to the right. Jackson drops to throw, fires to the end zone. Touchdown! It is Dez Bryant, 2 weeks in a row, flash the X again. And the former Cowboy has found a home not only with the Ravens, but in the Ravens' end zone.
Hey, the Ravens are a team that's a scary team. I feel like this was a team that kind of fell in love with the hype that preceded them heading into the season. They kind of lost their way on offense. And I think they've rediscovered how they should play down the stretch. Now, we can say that they're beating up on cupcake teams down the stretch, but they are playing the way that they need to play. And that play is run the football, run it often, run it with multiple ball carriers, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, whoever, just run the football and then occasionally take your shots in the passing game. When they do that, they're able to control the tempo of the game and get the game on their terms. Defensively, they've been solid, but I felt like their offense has been holding them back. If they are able to get into the postseason, I think they can present some problems for some of the matchups that they would potentially face when it comes to the seeding.
So the Ravens are in with a win against the Bengals in Cincinnati, or they can get in with a Browns loss versus the Steelers or a Colts loss to the Jaguars. So a couple of different ways the Ravens can get in. But the way that they will stay in is with their run game, which has absolutely taken off over the last month. 140 plus points in the last 4 games and over 900 rushing yards as a team over this 4-game win streak. They went for 240 in this game against a good Giants defense. Really, their strength is in the interior, right on that defensive line with Dexter Lawrence and the crew that they have up front. So, I thought that was pretty impressive. And so, it is kind of interesting seeing the Giants take a slide. I think they had kind of given us a false sense of what they are after that 4-game win streak, beating the Seahawks with Colt McCoy. They're now working their way right out of things here in the NFC East, although not done yet. But definitely more impressed with the way the Ravens have been running the ball here the last few weeks, DJ.
Yeah, and I think it's their best combination with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. And to me, when you add that in with Lamar Jackson, they've got 3 guys now. When you look at runners in the league that have had more than 80 carries this year, the Ravens have 3 in the top 10 in yards per carry. I think you look at Lamar, he's second in the league, and you've got Gus Edwards as well as J.K. Dobbins in the top 10. So you're getting over 5 yards a pop every single time one of those 3 guys has the ball underneath their arm. That's going to be a problem for teams in the postseason. They kind of find out who they are. They've gotten back to what they do best, Buck, to kind of get to your point. And I think they're a dangerous team. I know they haven't done well in the postseason previously, but I feel like they were kind of a marked man in the postseason with everybody gunning for them and all the expectations. Playing with house money now, they're coming in. They're going to come in as a wild card team if they get in, and I think they will. And I think they're a little bit better positioned to kind of be hunters instead of being the hunted.
Yeah, look, I think it's all about the seeding and who they potentially face. I know Buffalo would be an issue. It'd be an issue for Buffalo because they typically do well against them. And also Josh Allen has those same things as a young quarterback who have to kind of prove that he can handle the postseason. Pittsburgh is always a good matchup for them. So it'd just be interesting to see how it plays out.
What we got here? What's next?
All right, I'm up. The Colts lack second half horsepower.
Gets the snap, steps up, throws it long down the field. There's a man trying to run under it. It is Mike Hilton and over the field for shoulder interception inside the 15 at the 10-yard line.
Yeah, that one. That wasn't a great one.
A little bit of a force.
Yeah, we've seen that before. But at that point, the Colts it felt like things were slipping away from them. The Steelers go on this run in the second half after the magical halftime speech that Mike Silver's going to tell us about from Marquise Pouncey and from Ben Roethlisberger. Somehow they were able to summon their inner offensive explosiveness and start throwing the ball down the field. Roethlisberger, 244 yards and 136 passer rating in the second half. Most passing yards we've seen from him all season long. The Colts, for their part, converted a singular third down in the entire second half.
Wow.
And they really got away from what they were doing well in the first half, running the ball with Jonathan Taylor. And defensively, they couldn't hang with the explosive play, whether it was Juju and Deontay Johnson were carving them up. Chase Claypool had a long catch in the second half that set up a scoring opportunity. So it was good for the Steelers to get that kind of production, stop the 3-game slide, clinch the AFC North, get a little feel good going into week 17 where you can get away with resting your players if you want to, because whether you're 2 seed, 3 seed, I don't know that much of it is going to matter for you. And then the thing that will knock them out of the playoffs, though, is the fact that they are the worst rushing football team in the National Football League, which it still sounds crazy to me to think about. But that's where they're at, and that's why I think it's still going to be a little bit of a fool's gold for this 12-win Steelers team heading into the postseason.
Oh, I think it's a lot of fool's gold when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The fact that they can't get anything on 3rd and 4th and 1 running the football is a problem. Now, they were able to luck up and somehow find the ball, throw the ball down the field and get some plays, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. But to me, the bigger disappointment is just the way the Colts completely fell apart and went away from what was going well. They were physically beating up the Pittsburgh Steelers and decided to start throwing the ball. And it didn't make any sense. It really didn't make any sense when you watch.
No, it's a good point. I would say that the only thing that was somewhat encouraging, because the first half I'm watching that going, man, I think Ben might be done the way he's throwing the football, like just not seeing it. And then the second half, Rhett mentioned the numbers, but there's just one play, and we'll show this on the aftermath today. But he hit Claypool on a skinny post, little bang eight buck, and that ball, as you know,
that's what I'm talking about.
Requires some pace, and you got to put that on him. And the fact that he was able to summon that energy to be able to get that ball there, and it was a nice, firm, flat ball. And one thing I did notice on that one, you really watch, you can see Ben, who's always been kind of more of an upper body thrower. It's just all arm. He's just had such a strong arm.
His legs.
He has legs in that one, man. He has legs in the ground, cleat in the ground, and was really, you saw him drive off that. So I think some of this is Ben kind of learning how to play with this new arm that he's got, following that.
I will say this too, DJ. Their defense has to play differently for them to win and to make a run in the postseason. Keith Butler has to continue to be more aggressive. I think you saw an uptick in aggression in terms of the way they pressured and came after it. This team will go as far as their defense is able to take him. And so I think the thing that we have to monitor going forward, can they create negative plays consistently? Meaning tackles for losses, sacks, and turnovers. They have to win and dominate that category for this team to win.
And Bucky, I'm going to get it right back to you here for your next takeaway, but I just want to give the folks at home. So the Colts are now on the outside looking in. They now need a win against the Jags and some help. So they need a win and a loss by either the Ravens, Titans, Dolphins, or Browns, who are currently better positioned for the playoffs right now.
The Cowboys are making a run.
Big 3rd and 3. They really need this at their own 48. Dalton back, throws it down the right side. Over the top for Lamb at the 30. To the 20. On the run to the end zone. How about Andy Dalton and C.D. Lamb and 52 yards? And the Cowboys have back-to-back touchdowns.
Don't look now, but the Cowboys are beginning to round in the form. America's team has figured it out. When I looked at them play against the Eagles, I would say it was the best game that I've seen from Andy Dalton in a long time. 377 yards. The big three, the wide receivers combined for 13 catches, over 300 yards, had 3 scores. Michael Gallup, C.D. Lamb, Amari Cooper, and then Ezekiel Elliott. I know we've poured dirt on him, but he had a 100-yard game, and it was important because he looked a little different. He was running with violence. He was running with force. And if he is able to give them that, it gives them a chance. And, oh, by the way, the defense has been turning the ball over at an alarming rate. 10 turnovers in the last 3 games. It's one of the reasons why they've actually been on a hot streak.
So you go back and look at why you get enamored with the Cowboys in the first place, because they have some really good players, right?
And it's America's team. It's America's team.
Well, of course, it is America's team. That is absolutely right. And so, like, it makes sense that they are making this kind of run. Dalton throws for 377. This is a guy that's been into the play. He's been a playoff quarterback. I get he hadn't won a playoff game, but he's played some good football in his career, and he's got some really good players out there. And Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup and Ezekiel Elliott goes over 100 yards. And you're like, yeah, the Cowboys should be making a run at the NFC East title, even with Andy Dalton at quarterback. And right now, DJ, I'd feel most comfortable about the Cowboys winning a playoff game than any other team in the NFC East. The Cowboys have the best shot to win a playoff game if they get it.
I feel like every week I talk about a different team in this division, going from one to the next. I mean, I don't really believe in any of them. I think they're all fatally flawed teams. But, look, I think with Washington not having a healthy Alex Smith, which I never thought that would be the case. We'd be talking about this with them at this point in time in the season, but not having a healthy Alex Smith, that puts them out, in my opinion. You worry about them. Then you look at Dallas. To me, I think the investment in Andy Dalton is going to go down as one of the smartest offseason moves. When you look at some of these teams, look at what the Rams are going to be playing with. We look at, Taylor Heineke is going to be forced into action probably for Washington with where they are. That Andy Dalton is a really good option if your starter goes down. I mean, this guy's started in this league, won a lot of football games. He's 33 years old. It's not like he's 40 years old. Still got some left. And I think in this game, when you watch the tape, Buck, I came away impressed with Kellen Moore and the job that he did. A lot of quick game, some empty, getting the ball out of Andy Dalton's hands quick, and then they set up some shots with that down the field. They hit CeeDee Lamb on kind of like a little tight wheel route for a touchdown after everything had been underneath. They jump it to the flat. They ran it to the side of where Slay was because they know Slay's going to be matched up in man coverage, so they run Slay off and just opened up that whole third of the field for the wheel. I think Kellen Moore's done a pretty nice job there as somebody that's got a shot, I would think, if he wants it at the Boise State head coaching job, or he's going to have a chance to be a coordinator in the league for a long time if he wants to do that.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to get the Boise State job. I think that's probably something that'll probably happen in the next couple of weeks because I can imagine anyone else being better positioned to get that job. I will say that in watching this team, he has gotten better in terms of learning how to call a game that complements the way the defense and the special teams are playing. Before, he was kind of operating in a silo, just kind of dialing it up. I think the last 4 or 5 games, he's kind of found his way in terms of how can I get the ball out to the playmakers on the perimeter while also protecting the offensive line that it has some issues. But this line has played together the last 4 or 5 weeks, and they've improved. And so that's really been the key to their ability. And then on the other side with Mike Nolan, the defense still leaks oil, but he's found a way to kind of mask it. They're playing soft zones. They're doing a better job of playing with more energy and effort, and that has helped. And also the schedule has broken their favor because the last half of the schedule, they have played the lesser teams, the weaker teams on the schedule, and they've been able to beat up those teams. So now they have a chance to play against the Giants. With Washington playing against Philadelphia, they very well could kind of back into the playoffs and give themselves a chance to go maybe on a little run, a short run in the postseason.
All right, I'll get us to our next takeaway here. It is takeaway number 8, and it is the Browns fumble opportunities.
And on 4th down, they need a yard. He keeps it, he drives, and he got pulled back inside the 15-yard line. The Jets think that I think they believe they pulled the ball away. They haven't spotted the ball yet. Here's the call.
Field is during the 4th down play. Remember, the offense, other than the fumbler, recovered the ball. The ball will be returned at the spot of the fumble, resulting in a change of possession.
Oh, the ball goes over. Mayfield fumbled the ball.
Well, he did fumble the ball. Kareem Hunt actually recovered it. So that was actually one fumble that didn't actually cost them. They didn't get the first down anyway. This was such a strange situation for Cleveland. Plenty of reasons why, or excuses, if you will, they were in a position to lose to the Jets. Their top 4 wideouts were on the COVID-19 list and unavailable. 2 of their best offensive linemen unavailable in left tackle Jedrick Wills and Wyatt Teller, one of the best interior players in the league this year. So that part seemed to be as impactful in this game as the wideouts being gone, because you're like, well, look, Cleveland wants to run the ball anyway. This will just further their commitment and their emphasis on the run game. Instead, Baker Mayfield throws the ball 53 times. And I'm just like, I know they didn't have success early running the ball, but I mean, this was a Jets team without Quinnen Williams. And you might remember they had lost 13 straight games at one point. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about the Great Wall of China up there in front, as a run defense. So like the 2 fumbles by Baker proved costly. One of them was the strip sack. The other one, actually both of them, I think ended up being strip sacks there. And they turned into 10 points for the Jets, who have been opportunistic the last couple of weeks. It didn't all add up for Cleveland, who could now squander their best opportunity in the last decade to get back to the playoffs for the first time since I can't even remember when.
Flip it around real quick, Buck. Is the Jets haven't turned it over so the last couple of weeks. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a great football team, if you just protect the football and take the gifts that the other team wants to give you, you can be in games.
TJ, it's the number 1 deciding factor in football. If you just win the turnover battle by +1, you win 64% of your games. +2, it goes up to like 78, 80%. And 3 is 94%. And so I will say this about the Browns, and I think sometimes it's easy for coaches and play calls to get caught up. Baker Mayfield was coming off a stretch where he played really, really well. They had thrown the ball successfully. And so I think sometimes you could get seduced into thinking your quarterback is ready for more, and that it's not like the system and the run game and those things elevating him. And I think this was a reminder to Kevin Stefanski that this offense needs to run through the running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And unfortunately, miscalling this game might have cost the Browns a chance to go to the postseason, because I don't know if they knock off the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Pittsburgh Steelers have always treated them like the little brother. I don't know if that changes going into the last week of the season.
Yeah, it's disappointing. This is a Browns team that could be looking at a 10-6 season and not in the playoffs. That's crazy. All right, let's keep things moving here as it moves forward. One thing we do know for sure, we do know who has the number 1 overall pick, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Snap from center, play fake, Mitch gonna throw, pressure coming from behind, lofts it, down the left side, up in the air, snag, touchdown, Jimmy Graham, touchdown Bears, falling backwards, makes the grab. Bears are starting to pound the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So we know right now Jacksonville has the first pick. The Jets have the second pick. Those 2 are locked in. So as we get a chance to kind of look
dig
in the future, it's fun, man. Next week we'll know. Obviously the regular season ends. We'll know what that top 10 is going to look like. But I just want to give you a little bit of a snapshot right now if you're listening or watching here. Jacksonville 1, Jets 2. How about this one? Miami, with that pick they control from Houston, is the 3rd pick right now. So the Dolphins in prime spot. Atlanta 4, Cincinnati 5, Philadelphia 6, which is interesting with their QB situation going forward. Are they move on from Carson Wentz? Do they stick with Jalen Hurts, or do they go right back into the market here having to pick this high, which they wouldn't be picking that high? That's going to be a fun topic. Detroit, new GM coming in there. They're 7. Giants at 8. Then you look at Carolina 9 and Denver 10. So it's going to be a fascinating top 10 here. And knowing right now we have Jacksonville and the Jets, I think the draft will say Buck starts at pick number 2 because it seems like Trevor Lawrence, that all but assured he'll be the first overall pick.
All but assured it's done. I mean, I'm thinking about the jersey. I think
I'm just let's assume that nothing bad happens to him. He stays healthy.
Yeah, knock on wood for Duval down there. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I can't tell you the level of excitement that they have in terms of that. Obviously, it'll take more for them to build a team, but they are well positioned to have a really good rebound. And so that's why it'd be very interesting to see who they decide is going to be the team builder. And if they move on from Doug Marrone, who that team builder will bring as his coach. And so we'll see what it looks like. But yeah, they're excited. I think for a minute, though, we should talk a little bit about the Bears because the Bears are playing really well. I will say this. I feel like if you're a Bears fan and you're watching Mitch Trubisky, like you're kind of watching it like through like
we're gonna fall for this again,
peered eyes, because man, there are some good things that he does, but then he'll make a decision that you're like, why? Like why?
Into the first half,
interception. But Mike Glennon obviously paid him back because they threw an interception 2 plays later and let them do it. But it just like when he just stays within the confines of the offense, he is fine. And I think they've discovered something with David Montgomery. David Montgomery has really come on. Bill Lazor taking this offense over has helped them lean into the running game more than they had under Matt Nagy. And so it's working. I don't know how long it can work for, but right now it's working because the running game has really steadied this offense and is kind of minimizes the contributions that you need from Mitch Trubisky. But I'm not falling for it, Rhett. I'm not falling for it, even though he's a Tar Heel. I'm not falling for the Yoki dope.
Right. So what exactly are the Bears going to do? Like if they make the playoffs, they win a playoff game, or do you have to go out and re-sign him now? I mean, like, is this something you got to do? You got to franchise tag?
Who's going to
Mitch Trubisky?
Who's your upgrade going to be? That's my question.
Well, not if you're picking in the 20s.
They're picking in the 20s. You're not getting one in the draft.
Let me ask you this: is Andy Dalton an upgrade over Mitchell Trubisky?
I think it's a wash. I don't think so. I know Mitch. I've seen Mitch play. He's had good moments. I've seen him play well in this this organization, in this system. I've seen him have some success. I think the play calling change there to Bill Lazor has made a big improvement there for him.
You know what I think?
I don't think he's the long term answer, but I don't think we have a better option in the short term. I think
I think they have to keep it a year-to-year deal. I don't think they have to be careful. They can't do the Blake Bortles thing because of the upset the apple cart in the locker room, especially if you have to move on from Allen Robinson or whatever. But they have to find a way to kind of keep him around. But I don't think he's going to have suitors on the open market too. So you're kind of competing against yourself when it comes to what you're dealing with Trubisky.
Look, I think the easiest thing it's simple. It's simple. Ryan Pace goes and slips a 7th rounder to Howie Roseman and plucks Nate Sudfeld away, and now you've got your for the next 5 years.
Sudfeld mentioned. That's it. Nicely done. On that point, we'll move on from this topic. Bucky, you got number 9 on the takeaway?
The Seahawks are rounding into form as a title contender.
3rd down and 4. Hyde in the backfield. Russ with the shotgun snap looks out. Lays it up over the top. Hollister. He's got it. Touchdown, Seahawks. I think everybody on the Rams was looking for a short run. And here comes Russ going for the throat. And he finds Hollister in the back corner of the end zone for 6. The Seahawks stretch their lead.
It's a long call.
It was a nice long call there. Beefy.
Very, very, very long call. Here's the thing. The Seattle Seahawks are really rounding into form because their defense is playing better. Now, I know they haven't beat a murderer's row of teams with their defense playing at a high level, but they certainly have found their rhythm when it comes to mixing in Carlos Dunlap, Jamal Adams. And really, the combination of Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs has really steadied this secondary. And I'm not quite ready to proclaim them the Legion of Boom 2.0, but the secondary is playing better. We're not seeing the balls fly over their head. And for all the things that Jamal Adams doesn't do well in coverage, he is one of the best blitzers that I've seen as a safety. His ability to make plays when they drop him in the box and come off the edge is really remarkable. And they have leaned into that, and they've made him really their primary weapon when it comes to getting after the pass.
So here's my thing on them. Rhett, real quick, is
Take it.
I think if they run into a good quarterback, they're in trouble. They've had some good fortune here of who they've played. Now, the interesting thing, when you look at the NFC playoffs here, who do you want to avoid, right? You want to avoid Green Bay first and foremost because of Aaron Rodgers. Then I would put probably Tampa on there with Brady, especially with what he's done historically.
Well, that's what they're locked up with right now, I think, right?
So no, I think they would play the NFC, right? Wouldn't Tampa
4-5?
would be playing 4-5? Is that right? Or no, because we have the bye.
No, it's 4-5. It is 4-5.
Yeah.
And aren't the Seahawks the 4? Are they the 3?
I thought no, it'll be the NFC will be the 4. Whoever wins NFC East with Washington right now.
Oh, right. They'll be the 3, so they'll play
So they're the 3.
5. Yeah, I got you.
So, but I mean, to me, you look at avoiding the Packers and probably avoiding the Bucks. But then when you look at New Orleans with Drew at his age and not totally healthy, you look at whoever comes out of the NFC East, whoever that's going to be. There's nobody. None of those quarterbacks are going to really scare you. And the way Jared Goff's got a broken thumb or whatever's going on with his thumb, and he hasn't played well. You've got that with the Rams, and then you've got the Bears with Trubisky. Like they're only really you look at one elite player at Aaron Rodgers that they could see, and then Tom Brady who can find those moments. But he's 43 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it does break in their favor in terms of the matchups. And I would say the same thing for like the Packers. Like the Packers would get the bye, but their Achilles heel would be the running game. But there's not a running team that's really in the playoffs. Like there's not a team that's really committed to running the football.
The NFC is kind of a mess to sum it up here, basically.
Yeah, so it comes down to matchups and those things. So I don't know. But yeah, I feel like the Seahawks have tried in recent weeks to lean into the running game. When they run the football and they give you less of rust, they actually operate better. And so I do believe he can get them out of jams, but they're well positioned to make a run because this is kind of what they do.
Yeah, so right now, as of right now, you'd be looking at a rematch with the Rams in the first round. Like if it ended today, that's what it would be. Rams, and then it could end up being Chicago or Arizona.
Yeah, they don't want that. They want the Rams to lose out. They don't want to face the Rams because the Rams had really kind of dominated the matchup in recent weeks. I mean, in recent years, the Rams have kind of had their number in a way.
If it's John Wolford, it could be a different story. So,
okay. I don't want to go off on – how can John Wolford be your backup quarterback? Like, how can you be a team?
I didn't even do him coming out. I didn't even write him. I didn't even write him up coming out.
We talk about the quarterback position being the most important position, and yet I am amazed at these teams that are okay with just a guy as the backup quarterback position.
Yeah.
And the
Bucky,
fact
who has more career passing attempts than John Wolford in the NFL?
Mohamed Sanu?
Kendall Hinton.
Oh,
wow. Nice.
His Wake Forest fellow alum. Yeah, I mean it is strange to have a guy with zero experience. Now he played decent in the preseason in 2018. So they've seen him. I mean, like they know they're not crazy. Like they're not just like, oh man, cross our fingers, But I understand the point. I mean, like when we're in that age of teams going out and spending for a good quality backup. But
hey, they can't all have Chase Daniel, guys. Okay, they can't.
Right.
There's only one.
It's funny because I was thinking about that. I was like, I mean, then you go and spend and you get Chase Daniel, and then Chase Daniel does what John Wolford may be able to do.
To me, it does say something about Blake Bortles, right? Because Blake Bortles was their backup the year before John Wolford, and now he's like the fourth quarterback in Denver right now.
Yeah, it's a precipitous fall there. What's the last takeaway?
Final takeaway, a big quick one here. Dylan, king for a day.
Rodgers out of the gun, hands it to Dillon, and Dillon gets the first down and then breaks free inside the 20. Kiss him goodbye. 10-5 touchdown, prancing through the snow. Dillon, 30-yarder, and Green Bay has reopened this thing back up. It's now 32-14 with 3:35 left in the third quarter, and what a game for Dillon.
Put that snow in your pipe and Packers fans. Everyone who's saying they weren't going to get any contributions from the top of that draft class should have drafted a receiver. Garbage. Give me A.J. Dillon all day long. Over 100 years. Just as I've been saying all year long. No, I haven't. But it was nice to finally see some contributions from the first 3 picks that they had in this draft. 100-yard game for Dillon. And guys, I mean, like maybe this is it all along, right? This is what they had hoped for this time of year, this type of situation with the weather, just to be able to go out there and smash mouth a team that has made their living smash mouthing others, and Derrick Henry and the Titans. And they were the better team. The Packers were the better team on the ground. Like, it wasn't even really close in this game.
And this is the thing that I think they wanted. I think they wanted the ability to be able to morph their style when needed. Not necessarily being able to use A.J. Dillon for the entire game, but when we think about 4-minute offense, being able to soft the game away, being able to slow the game down, and also to have an alternative form of offense if, for whatever reason, Aaron Rodgers wasn't on his game, or if you need to change it up because of inclement conditions or those things. And so I think it makes the Packers a more well-rounded offense and gives them a chance to really face any style team. And so, look, it's a good move. He had 100 yards. And the thing that stood out to me in watching that game, he is so big. I cannot imagine. I can't imagine. It looked like he was even – maybe it's the yellow pants, but I was like, I can't even imagine one to run up and deal with him in the hole, especially when it's cold, DJ.
Yeah,
like
cold.
it gives them something in the cold weather. Man, those DB, they're going to turn down shots to be able to want to hit him.
Yeah, I'm with you. To me, it looks like this is a little different Packer team with the way they can close out games now with some physicality there. The other thing is when you start seeing guys like that, run the football, it gives you confidence that you can shorten the game. If the Packers can get out to a lead, they can shorten it. So that was encouraging. And the other thing is, look, I think Rodgers had 4 incompletions in this game. To play that well in those conditions is crazy to me. How easy he made that look.
Hey, quick bonus takeaway here, guys. You get a little, it's week 16. Time for a little extra to reward all of our loyal listeners here down the stretch of this season. Quick bonus takeaway. Nabil, could you set me up real quick?
He had a little adversity. Let him work through it.
I get it, but ultimately, if it helps you win a football game, like at this point, if you're the 3-7 Dolphins, let him work through it. But you're the 6-3 Dolphins here, looking for win number 7. Like, go get it. Do whatever you have to go get it.
But you're thinking of quarters and you're thinking of individual games. I'm thinking of seasons. I'm thinking of years. I'm thinking of careers. And I don't 100%. Think this decision lines up with what's best for the rest of this season because, spoiler alert, we know what Ryan Fitzpatrick is.
All right, pat yourself on the back there, buddy. Pat yourself on the back. Fitzpatrick comes in. We get you the big win. But let's wait and see. Let's wait and see what kind of damage is or isn't done.
Tua Tagovailoa does not have that tender of a sensibility to where he is going to be irreparably hard.
I just don't understand this. I really don't. Like I can't.
See, Rhett thought he was gonna do a victory lap, Buck, and he doesn't know he's getting ready to get smacked. Yeah, go ahead, give it to him.
Well, even during the game, DJ, like I can't understand not letting Tua work through this because you know what happens next year. Tua plays like a rookie all over again because he's never worked through any adversity. And so next year, are you going to do the same thing? Are we going to have this what is it?
It's a training wheels.
I mean, this Bob Greasy, Earl Morrall thing where they're rolling in and out. Are we going back to
Danny Werfel or Danny Werfel
Craig Morton and Roger Staubach where they're going to run each other's plays in and out? I mean,
Jesse Palmer and whoever
I don't
Shane
understand what
Matthews.
we're doing. Like it's crazy to me.
Look,
to see
it makes total sense. You let Tua continue to prepare like the starter, and he's out there, and look, if he's playing well, he finishes the game. If you need to come in and like just pull the righty out of the bullpen a little bit, go ahead, get some magic. Why not? And what if the Dolphins win the dang Super Bowl? Like, what if it actually happens? And Fitzpatrick comes in and seals the deal.
That's not happening.
I mean,
but the other thing, this is, you know what this is? This is when you go to the park to play hoops with all your buddies, and you have your older brother who just he drops you off. You're like, can you just hang around? And then all of a sudden you're losing in the pickup game. You go, you got to bring your big brother to come in there, come help us out now so we can win the game. I don't know.
And then they win, and it's great, and they're going to go to the playoffs, and like they're going to win. They might win a playoff game, and so what if Fitzpatrick has to play the last drive to do it? Like it's fine. It's fine. Ridiculous. Quarterbacks aren't that tender. Like let them. They're going to be okay.
They are that tender.
Yeah, you are.
Right. Look no further than Philadelphia. How that has worked out. So you do need to support them and prop them up. But I'm just curious why they didn't take any shots with Tua down the field. And you can say, well, you don't think he can make those throws. If they don't think he can make those throws, then we've got a real problem.
They should have picked him. If he can't go and play against Tampa 2, that's a problem. Because I just sat and watched Justin Herbert take check down after check down after check down. And then once they came up, he hit the corner routes. And once he caught someone out of position, he threw it over their head. So, look, Tampa 2 has been in existence for a long time. And obviously, the Raiders don't play it well because Fitzpatrick hit a honey hole shot on 3-by-1 on the backside.
After the Chargers did him the week before.
And so I just don't understand. I don't know what the long-term benefit out of this is. So, yeah, like they won the game. They put themselves in a position to go to the playoffs. But are we going to start 2 in the playoffs? Because it might be too big for them in the playoffs. So let's start Fitzmagic. I just don't understand this. If this was going to be the thing, then they just should have kept Fitzmagic in the thing.
All right, that's our bonus takeaway. We gave you a bonus takeaway today. There you go. Rhett thought he was going to get a walk-off.
I win.
Walk-off there.
I win.
All right, this is a fun episode, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We appreciate you. Wish you guys a happy New Year as well. We've got some more episodes coming your way, though, so be on the lookout for those right here on Move the Sticks.